Snatcher is one heck of a ride. We've already seen our would-be partner's decapitated body, questioned people in a nightclub, tried to eat some Neo-Kobe pizza, and learned of the Snatcher weakness, the sunlight. And now we're in the middle of finding the Snatchers who've killed Jean Jac Gibson after following his footsteps and piecing together a puzzle Gibson had largely solved. But it is possible that one of our suspects is not a Snatcher. At this point in the game, however, Snatcher gives you a false sense of choice. You're able to choose which apartment to visit, be it Freddy or Ivan's. But no one will ever be home at Freddy's unless you visit Ivan's first. After rapping on the door to Ivan's little rundown apartment a few times, he finally decides to come out, but not with open arms.
Did I kill him?
He has only lost consciousness. Excellent shot, Gillian, hitting him in the hand like that.
That's not exactly how I planned it.
Gillian doesn't mess around, and this guy's an absolute idiot for shooting at a cop. He practically lost his entire legal basis by firing, which is probably why Gillian does this.
All right, buddy, time to wake up.
Whoa, man, don't shoot, don't shoot!
Gillian, while your earlier shot is justifiable as self-defense, killing this suspect would violate Section 5, Article 2 of the Junker bylaws. You must first have concrete evidence that he is a Snatcher.
Damn.
Metal Gear, you're such a goddamn goody two-shoes. We're looking for the telltale signs that Ivan is a Snatcher, now that we know that they need sunscreen even in the winter. But how we turn up in Ivan's disgusting pigsty of a bathroom are suntan oil and an airboard. These are probably not things a Snatcher would carry, suntan oil being the polar opposite of sunscreen. However, the rat's got some illegal drugs, which must be why he took a shot at Gillian. Ivan's tan, he surfs above the clouds, and is genuinely freaked out by Gillian's presence. That leads us to believe that he can't be a Snatcher. However, better to be safe than to be sorry.
Gillian, Ivan's skin is healthy. There is no way he could be a Snatcher and tan like that without developing melanoma. However, HQ has just transmitted us a scanning warrant. Therefore, under the provisions of Section 18 of the Civil Code, Snatchers and the Protection of Citizens' Rights, I will hereby commence a full bioscan of Ivan. Analysis complete. Ivan Rodriguez is a completely normal Homo sapien.
Oh, I keep telling you, dude, I ain't no Snatcher or whatever. Now, would you please get me a doctor?
Why don't you just put some of your drugs on it?
So Ivan's not our man. He's not a Snatcher, and that means he didn't kill Jean Jac Gibson. That leaves Freddie Nielsen. Over at his apartment, a woman opens up the door, introducing herself as Lisa Nielsen, Freddie's wife. After questioning her, it's time to find out if Freddie could really be a Snatcher.
Without more evidence, we cannot get a scanning warrant.
We'd like to take a look in your bathroom if you don't mind.
Oh, you need to use the bathroom?
No, we'd like to investigate your bathroom.
Really? Whatever, please go right ahead.
The Nielsens have a very nice bathroom and an interesting tub and assortment of bottles, one of which is recently used sunscreen. It's the middle of December, so this must be it. Freddie must be a Snatcher. Something his wife isn't too happy to know we figured out.
Know all about us, do you, Junker?
That wound!
Jean did that to her.
Die, Junker!
Another quick firefight and we've bagged our first Snatcher, but there's no sign of her husband. After stupidly leaving the apartment, Gillian and Metal are locked out and force their way back in after seeing a light. Lisa's still very, very dead, and Gillian makes the classic mistake of turning his back to an open door. It's hard to shoot at a guy when he's choking the life out of you, but after another quick action segment, our Junker is saved.
That was close. You're lucky I was here to save your skin.
Who are you?
Me? Random Hajil, bounty hunter.
Bounty hunter?
Yes, Gillian, a bounty hunter.
This is Random Hajil, a civilian junker of sorts. They just don't have the authority, and they have a real dislike of investigations. Metal Gear, of course, being the goddamn goody two-shoes that he is, wants everyone to play by the rules.
Investigations aren't my style. You track them down, I take them out.
You have the legal obligation to state your bounty hunter registration number. Please do so now, immediately.
BH75001 Random Hajile. That's RANDOMHAJILE.
BH75001, Random Hajile. That's confirmed. I officially recognize you as a legal bounty hunter.
Turns out, Random's been tailing Gibson for a while, possibly bagging the Snatchers Gibson was going to junk himself. But he's confirmed what we first thought. The Snatchers have a hospital to treat their skin cancer-riddled brethren.
So, Junker Boy, let me give you a little tip. You might already know, but Snatcher's weak point is their artificial skin. If they sit out in the sun too long, they get cancer. That's why they set up a hospital to treat this little problem of theirs. You find it, you can take them out, roots and all.
Where did you get all your information? Wait a sec. You stole it from Gibson, didn't you?
That's not really important. But now that Gibson's out of the picture, I need you to get busy.
I track them down and you junk them. Is that the idea?
Anyhow, it seems Gibson found that hospital. He must have left behind some information about it.
What do you mean, seems? Don't you know anything about it?
Hey, investigations are your job, right?
I owe you one, Random.
Yeah, I'll get it out of you later. See ya, Junker Boy.
A Snatcher-controlled hospital, eh? There's bound to be more than a few of them in there.
Back at headquarters, we review the investigation up to this point and find out that Harry was actually able to recover some of Little John's memory, a single image showing a hospital sign. Since Little John was Gibson's navigator, it's very possible that this image is a sign for the hospital the Snatchers have been using. Our goal now becomes to find that hospital. Searching Jordan the computer turns up nothing, as the hospital would have to be an illicit hospital and not on the government network, but someone's gotta know where this place is.
Alright, I've had it. Don't call me anymore, okay?
Wait a minute, Napoleon. I'll keep any Snatchers off your back.
They're after both of us. You better worry about watching your own back. Oh, by the way, here, a little Christmas present for you.
What? Tissues?
See ya. Merry Christmas.
After falsely going to a vet by accident, Katrina is attacked and Gillian tries to find her. Unsuccessful, Gillian heads back to his apartment for rest, only to notice his home has been invaded. Someone is in the shower stall. Did Jamie come over? Pretty unlikely. Did a Snatcher make its way in here? Possible. There's really only one way to find out.
I'll open the blinds by altering the electrical polarity. Are you ready?
Okay, go ahead.
All right. Now opening the blinds.
Whoa!
You pervert! Get out of here!
I hope you learned your lesson, Gillian. You definitely had that coming to you.
Oh, yeah? Well, I didn't exactly see you close your eyes either.
That is because my optical sensors are not equipped with retractable shutters.
Oh, shut up. You know exactly what I mean.
Here comes Katrina.
I can't believe you did that, Gillian!
You see, I was just...
Face up to it like a man.
You shut up.
Katrina really needs to put some clothes on, or else Gillian's only going to get all pervy again really quick. She thought Gillian's apartment would be the safest place to hide from the Snatchers that are now after her, possibly as vengeance for Gillian and Random killing Freddy and Lisa Nielsen. However, she also wanted to give us something of her father's, a list of hospitals not found on the computer network. Queen's Hospital has to be where the Snatchers are performing cancer treatments on themselves. Getting to the hospital itself isn't hard, but there's nothing inside. All the rooms are empty and all the equipment is dusty and undisturbed for a very long time. However, a search of Chinshu Oh's office, the director of Queen's Hospital, turns up a picture of a Russian cathedral, some matches from outer heaven, and a patient record written in Chinese. We know someone who can read that, right?
I thought you were supposed to be really good at Chinese.
My strongest areas are in chop suey, egg foo young, and wontons.
Napoleon doesn't answer his phone, but it's not very hard to find him when he leaves you easy clues like this. After telling the doorman at Outer Heaven that he smells and sneezes like Napoleon, we finally get to talk to our favorite Chinese informant.
I suppose there's no harm there. Boy, you really work up a sweat in these full-face masks.
Oh, boy. Maybe you should have left that on.
The characters are written as elements in Chinese, and eventually they figure out the name.
So that's it. Benson. Beryllium is Be, nitrogen is N, sulfur is S, and oxygen is O. And another N makes Benson. The name Benson was encoded on this file.
Benson. I sure hope it is not referring to the chief, Benson Cunningham.
Or to our friendly engineer, Mr. Harry Benson.
Despite Benson possibly being a name used by someone else entirely, Metal and Gillian take precautions anyway.
Metal, I want you to cut off all your data transmissions to headquarters now.
Understood. Now disabling automatic transmission routines. Done. No further data transmissions to headquarters will be executed.
My God, a Snatcher in Junker headquarters? We've got to get there quick. Let's go, Metal.
See you later, Junker. Today's little information tidbit is on me.
Back at headquarters, Mika says both are out and talks about how the chief is preparing for his speech at the Kyoto summit coming up. He's going to talk about the Snatcher problem in Neo Kobe, hoping to calm the fears of the Snatcher menace. Harry's also been out trying to find the chief. Harry also has some matches from Outer Heaven in his office, which we now know is a Snatcher stomping ground to scout for targets. He also has an interesting note. This is all important stuff. It's time to scope out the chief's office before saying Harry's gotta be the only Snatcher in Junker. If you watched part 1, you might remember me mentioning that the chief has a weird obsession about the picture in his office. It seems a little out of place. Flipping it around reveals a picture of Moscow from 50 years ago. Very strange. There's a lot of mention of Moscow recently. From Jamie's picture at the Olympics, a map that was hanging at the Nielsen's apartment, to the picture in the chief's office and at the hospital, there seems to be a lot of connections back to the old Soviets. But before we can worry too much about that, Jamie calls with some new info for us.
Gillian, it's me, Jamie. Listen carefully. You know that Queen's Hospital? I found out that they undertook a major expansion project in 2035 to put in a basement. That's right, they have a basement. Basement construction is really unusual here in Neo Kobe. That's why there are still records of it. But there's more. The director of that hospital, Chin Chu-ho, has had his license suspended in the past for performing eugenics experiments at an illicit underground facility.
Are you telling me Queens has underground treatment facilities?
That has to be it, Gillian. Chin Chu-ho is performing skin operations on Snatchers underground.
And that means that Chin himself is also probably a Snatcher. Or rather, the real Chin, the original Chin, was snatched.
So, that entire ground-level complex is just a front for the underground facilities.
And if we hit that hospital, we can ruin the Snatcher's plans. Well, this is it, Metal. We're heading right into the enemy's headquarters this time.
Time to hit the Snatcher nest hidden deep in the basement of Queen's Hospital, but things don't go very well for the Junker on his way there.
Just where do you think you're going?
This is most unusual. The turbo cycle seems to be out of control.
Switch over to manual. I'll take over.
Understood. I've switched to manual control. Well, how is it?
What the? We've got no brakes! Metal, check the brake system out. Pronto!
Sorry, Gillian. Looks like sabotage. No doubt the Snatcher's handiwork.
Sabotage? But the only one who could work on the turbo cycle...
Worry about that later. Gillian, we've got to do something quickly.
This scene with Gillian's out-of-control turbo cycle is one of my favorite parts of Snatcher. It's supposed to be a little bit stressful, but also kind of comedic at the same time. Gillian and Metal try to stop the turbo cycle with some very amusing results.
And a good morning to you, my friend. Bud Miller with you here on the big 90.7. Looks like we're gonna have a bright...
Nothing works, but maybe a little prayer would do the trick.
What else can we do? Metal, start punching buttons.
Any buttons at all?
Yes, push anything.
Gillian, this doesn't seem to be doing any good.
Damn, I was sure that would work.
Gillian, the road makes a sharp right turn just 1,500 meters ahead. At this speed, we'll never make it.
This scene is a lot of fun to watch, and serves as a good example of just how cinematic and exciting Snatcher can be.
Hey, Gillian!
Huh? Over here! What's that?
Gillian, over here!
Random!
Gillian, you gotta jump over to my bike! Hurry!
800 meters until we reach the curve.
Metal, you go first!
What? Not again.
Move your butt! That curve's just ahead!
Understood. 1, 2, 3!
All right, Gillian, now it's your turn. Keep her steady.
300 meters until you reach the curve.
Gillian, jump!
I can't! My timing's off!
150 meters.
Gillian, now!
70 meters.
Now, Gillian, now!
Oh, we're too late!
Gillian! I guess he didn't make it.
Don't bury me so fast! I'm right here!
Don't you even know how to ride a motorcycle?
Random tailing us so he can bag our Snatchers finally comes in handy as he saves our skin once more. After Gillian gets a good upper body workout by holding onto the back of his motorcycle, they arrive at Queen's Hospital, and after some snooping, find a passageway downstairs.
This apparently leads down to a lower level.
It looks like Jamie was right. Queen's Hospital does have a basement.
And that basement is the Snatcher's main lair. Out of the frying pan and into the fire, as they say. Well, what do we do now, Gillian?
The upstairs of Queen's Hospital is just a front, as this recreation downstairs looks far more well used. Just like other sections of the game, you need to go through each menu option in every room in order to trigger an event inside these rooms. There's a lot to see in the hospital, and things about the Snatcher's cancer treatment start to make a little bit of sense, but they clearly don't want you around. Eventually, we're able to enter the last door in the hallway, a very unpleasant place.
Good God!
I read 4 human skeletons in this room.
It's their morgue.
Perhaps victims of the Snatchers?
Well, it doesn't look like whoever put them here was too worried about making sure they would rest in peace.
No, it doesn't. These have got to be their victims.
This is probably where they hide the bodies of the originals they snatch from places like Outer Heaven.
They probably picked Outer Heaven because it gets a lot of VIP traffic. Plus, during masquerade time, they could work the place and still keep their identities secret.
Yeah, and the guy who set up the link between them and Outer Heaven was Freddy, that taxi driver. They must have gone after him not because of who he was, but what he did. After all, with a taxi, there's plenty of chances to milk your customers for information. That's probably how they learned about Outer Heaven and Plato's Cavern.
I've been wondering what they had done with the bodies.
Want to hide a book? What better place than the library? Need to hide a body? How about the morgue?
And for them, keeping the bodies hidden is crucial. I mean, if somebody who's supposed to be dead is out walking the streets, it wouldn't be too hard to figure out that something screwy is going on.
That means that if we can figure out who these bodies were, then we've just nailed 4 Snatchers.
This morgue is disgusting, and these bodies have been mangled beyond belief to prevent their identification. But Metal Gear's a useful little guy and tries to postulate their identities.
Initial phase completed. Margin of error on estimate of victim's race, 10% based on use of average values. Now adding postulated hair and eye features. Reconstruction of head of first victim completed.
It's Freddie Nielsen.
Reconstructing. Initial phase completed. Margin of error on estimate of victim's race 10% based on use of averaged values. Now adding postulated hair and eye features. Reconstruction of head of second victim completed.
That's Lisa Nielsen.
Now adding postulated hair and eye features. Reconstruction of head of third victim completed.
Who in the world is that?
That's the director of Queen's Hospital, Shin Fui, what's his face,
Chin Chu Oh, Gillian. Moving on to last victim. Now commencing reconstruction of features of victim number 4.
So we have 3 victims, but the last one shocks everyone.
Now adding postulated hair and eye features. Reconstruction of head of final victim completed.
It's the Chief!
What?
The Chief is a snatcher! The Benson on the scrap of that patient record was Benson Cunningham.
Judging from the condition of the body, I would estimate that the snatching took place approximately 1 month ago.
So it was the Chief who sabotaged our turbo cycle.
The entire time Gillian has been working for Junker, the Chief has been a snatcher, and Harry's been out looking for him. But before Gillian, Random, and Metal can do anything about it, such as stopping Cunningham from going to the Kyoto Summit, they are assaulted by the Snatchers, who, like all good villains, explain some of their plans.
Our goal is to snatch all of the world's leaders, and then achieve total control of human thought and worldwide racial unification.
You're insane. Humanity won't be so easily dominated. You underestimate the strength of the human spirit.
I think not. In the same way as the Nazis, our strategy begins with the overpowering of the spirit of the people. We will strike at you humans' weakest point, the most primitive part of your psychological makeup, your suspiciousness and fear.
Now, what other video game do you know in the mid-90s where you get to compare robots to Nazis? Huh? It's awesome. Things aren't looking good for Junker and company, but Random has a plan.
There must be some way out of here.
Hey, I wasn't doing this job just for fun. I stayed ready for situations like this. I've always been prepared to go out with a bang.
It's December. A little late for fireworks.
So it'll be an off-season show.
No, I can't let you.
My belt's packed with TNT PX. You know, that really strong stuff they use in the mines on Mars. One push, and this whole hospital will go. No trouble at all. No time to sit around thinking, Junker boy. Go!
After forcing Gillian through an air duct, Random saves our skin again, a debt that'll be hard to repay. Without any time to mourn Random's explosive ending, the duo fight off more insectors to make their way through the old subway system of Neo Kobe, which is apparently how the Snatchers have been getting around. The subway system comes out in certain areas, explaining how the Snatchers escaped from the factory and probably make their slips all throughout Neo Kobe. Gillian and Metal emerge in Freddie Nielsen's apartment of all places and try to catch a taxi back to Junker headquarters, only to find a friend of theirs in the driver's seat.
Is he dead?
He's junk now. Stubborn one, wasn't he?
Back at headquarters, things are looking pretty grim. Mika's been knocked out and Harry's locked himself inside to fight Cunningham. But once inside, things definitely don't look good for our old pal, the engineer.
Metal, how is he? Metal!
I do not wish to say.
Really that bad, huh?
Gillian, when I confronted him about what I saw, he showed me what he really was. I was barely able to even scratch him.
That's enough, Harry. I understand. Metal, is there anything we can do for him?
Gillian, I'm sorry.
Harry, you'll be okay. It doesn't look like you're hurting too bad. This'll work out perfect. You always were working too hard anyway. Why don't you take a nice long vacation somewhere and rest up?
Yeah, sure. Nice try, Gillian, but it's my body. I know I ain't gonna make it. You were a good kid, Gillian.
Harry!
Gillian, I've lived my life alone. I didn't know my parents or family. Always so stubborn, glued to my research. I never really trusted anybody. That was a mistake. You're the last Junker.
Harry! Harry!
Pulse 0. Pupils are dilated.
Cunningham! No! Snatcher! I'll get you for this!
This is where things get intense for Gillian. Now it's even more personal. He never met Jean, but took out his killers anyway, and now he's got to do the same favor for Harry, and to pay back Random. This scene always gets me. Years of playing this game and I still get choked up. Harry really didn't deserve to die. Cunningham's hiding somewhere in headquarters, and we turn over every nook and cranny to find him. We finally find some blood after, yes, once again, going through most of the possible menu options in every room in Junker headquarters. Cunningham ties up Mika, and Gillian has to take him out. The Snatcher chief, who we've been working for the entire game, does reveal some of the plans the Snatchers have before finally succumbing to the gunshot wounds.
Queen's Hospital was nothing more than a maintenance facility. We have comrades operating throughout the city, more than you can imagine. Now our plans will move into Phase 2. For that we will enlist the help of Professor Lorraine. Your existence is meaningless, as long as you don't get your memory back. Good luck, Junker.
Phase 2, Professor Lorraine and our memory? That's foreshadowing if I ever heard it. It's not time to relax just yet, because Jamie calls with an urgent message. And it isn't good for anyone.
I'm so sorry.
Snatcher!
Gillian!
We have Professor Lorraine. We only require her cooperation for a short period here at the Kremlin. So for now, I suggest you avoid doing anything foolish, Professor Seed.
With the start of this year's Kyoto Summit just 3 hours away, the delegates from the participating countries are beginning to arrive at the conference center.
The Kyoto Summit is about to get underway, and there's talk of nuking Neo Kobe to destroy all the Snatchers. After figuring out some connections between the allergen Snow 9, which we saw on Jamie's video phone call that's found near Snatchers and gives Napoleon his terrible sneeze, the photos and maps of Moscow we found, we find the Snatchers' Kremlin, their hideout. With all of that in mind, we only have a few hours to stop the Snatchers, rescue Jamie, and convince the delegates at the summit not to blow up millions of people. Metal and Gillian make for the abandoned church the Snatchers are calling their Kremlin. The church features a portrait of a guy who looks an awful lot like Random on the wall, of which the Snatchers apparently actually worship. Given their obsession with Moscow, this worship isn't too far of a stretch. The Snatchers apparently need something to keep them emotionally in check. Deeper in the church, Gillian and Metal discover a Snatcher storage facility and learn how the snatch process works. There's not a lot of time left, and Gillian asks Metal to buy him some more time before the summit decides to nuke Neo Kobe, killing everyone. The most intense firefight of the whole game follows, of which I died about 10 times. These shooting sections are more of an endurance contest at this point. Gillian fights his way through enough Snatchers to make Random's bounty account jealous and eventually reaches Jamie. Their reunion is short-lived, however.
Try to remain calm, okay? 56 years ago, you and I were involved in a top-secret Soviet project. It was still during the time of the Cold War. The gulf between East and West was as wide as ever. Everybody was worried about nukes.
What follows is one of the most intense early 90s cutscenes ever. This thing is almost 30 minutes long. But here's the gist of it. Elijah Modnar, Jamie Lorraine, and Gillian Seed were all working on a project for the Soviets 50-some years ago. The Snatcher project was to be used to snatch, ergo replace, world leaders and populations with robots they controlled. But Elijah, this old man, was focused on more than just the bioroids.
My father's connections got me on the team, and there, I met you. You were working as my father's assistant. Your beauty, your smile, I was stricken. I saw something in you that I never felt with women of my own country. You warmed my cold, young heart, Jamie. You opened me up, and I couldn't stop my feelings.
Elijah.
However, my happiness did not last for long. Gillian, it was you. You showed up and all was ruined. You arrived and joined our project team. Far from home, Jamie found comfort in a man from the same land. Your relationship grew quickly, and all I could do was stand by and watch.
During the course of the project, Elijah realized a little secret about Gillian Seed.
That's about the time that I learned that you, Gillian, that you were a CIA agent, and that you were trying to pass documents on our research to your military. The country had sold us out.
As things started to go south for the Snatcher project, Elijah revealed that he was not willing to give up on Jamie or this crazed project when the Cold War started to die down in the late 80s. There was still a lot of work to be done, and Elijah reveals why Lucifer Alpha existed and what he did to continue his research.
In other words, a whole nation or an entire city had to be snatched over the course of one night. For that reason, a powerful biological agent which could quickly and effectively kill the population of the country was being simultaneously developed.
Lucifer Alpha.
That's right. A type RAO11 virus which another team was developing. For someone like myself, who was closely involved in the project, blowing up the lab was quite a simple task.
My God, Elijah, do you know what you're saying? That explosion killed half the world's population.
I moved all the materials and records essential to the bioroid project into the shelter, and executed my plan on June 6th.
He had Gillian and Jamie enter a cryogenic sleep, waking himself up 10 years later, but he couldn't bring himself to wake up Jamie, and certainly not Gillian. Elijah's plot has been to create a perfect, evolutionary human, the Snatcher. Like a lonely, obsessed fool, Elijah worked for 40 years to finish the Snatchers, finally completing them 3 years ago and choosing Neo Kobe as a test subject. A pretty crazed idea, all things considered. Eventually it comes out that Elijah's father, who he had kidnapped and just passed away a few minutes ago, had perfected the skin a Snatcher needed, and Elijah had finally found it.
We found this in the rubble of Queen's Hospital.
Random.
Oh, an acquaintance of yours?
He's a Snatcher?
That term isn't exactly accurate.
Things are just getting complicated now. Random is a Snatcher-killing bioroid built as a kind of big FU to Elijah from his own father. Random was even built to look like Elijah and has memories based off his own childhood. Random's got the perfect artificial skin, and even believed himself to be human. But there's just one problem. He's not done yet.
What? How did... You're supposed to be deactivated.
I don't go down that easy, old man.
Metal also appears and informs the group that the church is about to be blown up by an attack satellite as a compromise for not nuking the actual city. He gets Jamie and Gillian to flee while Random and Metal keep Elijah and the Snatchers inside. It sucks to see Random alive, only to blow himself up a second time not 5 minutes later. Make that 4 times he saved our skin. With the church, the dormant Snatchers, and their mastermind now dead, Gillian has one more stop to go before finally destroying all the Snatchers. And this is where Snatcher ends, needing a sequel. Gillian's taking off for Moscow to destroy the Snatchers' main factory, a portion of the story we actually don't get to experience at all. His wife, Katrina, and Mika see him off, and even a rebuild from a Sega CD Metal Gear begs to come along. And so ends Snatcher, a give or take 12-hour romp through one of the finest examples of an adventure game I've ever played. The Sega CD version is the only version released in America, and that is a travesty, as there hasn't been any remakes or ports either, and probably no plans for such releases either. Snatcher is an emotional story full of loss and action, told through an interactive yet cinematic lens that helps set this game apart from just about everything else, even games made today. I've not yet found a game that makes me get as invested in the characters as Snatcher does, and that is the highest praise I think I can give a video game. As you have no doubt guessed, Snatcher's appearance and even some plot elements stem from inspiration from the 1982 cult classic Blade Runner. Gillian looks a little like Harrison Ford's character Rick Deckard, and Random looks kind of inspired by the character Roy Batty. The fire seen on the city's skyline, the turbocycles, and a few other things seem downright stripped from the movie too, something that has a lot of people point out that makes Snatcher Blade Runner the game. Of course, you see that there are some differences, but some sections pay respects to the clear inspiration for the game, and you can even compare these two scenes.
No, 4, 2, 2, 4. And noodles.
All right, boys, what'll you have already?
Give me 4 of these.
What? 2? 2 will be plenty.
That's all right, give me 4.
Really? 2? 2 will be more than enough.
And a bowl of ramen, too.
Would you listen to what I'm trying to tell you here?
My wife's always telling me, boy, you really have an appetite.
But the comparisons in my mind don't just stop with the movie Blade Runner, but also stem directly from the book the movie is based off of, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, penned by Philip K. Dick in the late 60s. In the book, a police chief turns out to be a snatcher, similar to what happened to Junker's own Cunningham. You can also slightly make out Edward Munch's The Scream in the background near Plato's Cavern. In a scene in the book, Rick Deckard confronts android Luba Luft, who is also looking at a Munch painting, Puberty. These might be fun happenstances, and there's a lot more I'm not showing here as well. Snatcher is, as you can probably tell, one of my favorite games. It's an obscure game I only discovered a few years ago in college, and it's only grown on me since. The way the story is presented with fantastic voice acting and a bang-up localization job by Konami show how much love and attention went into this release. There are a few things I've never cared for, such as Random turning out to be a Snatcher hunting bioroid right at the end of the game. That always felt like such a cop-out to me, because there was no indication of Random being a robot, but that does show how perfect the bioroids were at imitating humans. I know we spent a long time going over the plot, but trust me, there is a lot we skipped over and plenty more to see and do in this fantastical, immersive world that is Neo Kobe. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you next time.
Yeah, that's the scariest thing about them. You can't tell them from real people once they've got that skin on.
Perhaps that's humanity's great weakness. We're always judging books by their cover.
And it's just that human weakness that they're out to take advantage of.